This is the Music Storm podcast where we discuss music from so many angles, from artists, producers to listeners, but with the main interest with the music industry as a whole. Today we got Joey from Disciple. How are you doing, Joey?
And I'm great.
You're,
Just enjoying home. I appreciate you having me.
yeah, man. I guess you're just chilling at home because of COVID, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's we've been pretty much sitting on our butts for a year, other than like the live stream shows that we've done. We've done 3 of those. But we actually just got to play our first shows in almost a year in front of actual real life human beings.
Yeah.
So this past weekend was nice. It was a nice change of pace. Got to experience what it was like to play a show again. Felt great, and hopefully it's just a move in the right direction. So
Hopefully, if this
yeah,
vaccine comes out and everything, right?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, for sure.
How was that
Uh,
like going back into like not playing for so long, I guess?
Man, it was strange because for the live stream shows we did specific set list,
Mhm.
and 2 of those live streams, one was like a fan voted set list. And then sorry, I've got my let me turn
That's
my
fine.
volume off here. Yeah, so it was those live stream shows, one of them was a fan voted set list.
Mhm.
Another one was the 10-year anniversary of Dear X. So we played a lot of songs that we don't normally play. And so coming back to this set, there was a few hiccups over the weekend.
Mhm.
One of the biggest ones being my fault, which
Your
is
fault.
always a lot of fun because when a guitar player messes up, you got another guitar player on stage that can kind of like
Go
fill the
into it,
gaps and
right?
whatnot. But when the drummer messes up, dude, it's like it's very, very apparent, and it was a yikes moment for me. So I blame it on being off for that long. But
That's funny. That's funny. Like you can notice, like once a drummer messes up, they're not on beat and everything, and people are like, "What's going on?" Right?
yeah, it was the biggest mess up that I've had since I've been in Disciple. Uh but that's the thing, man. It shows how human we are, and not every show can be a out of the park home run, but it was for sure like a moment that I haven't experienced in a very long time. So it was humbling to say the least.
I get that. So
Yeah.
like, let's go to the very beginning. Like, what got you into music? What got you into drumming?
So I was young. I got my first drum kit when I was 7. But I think there was 2 factors that played a role in it. One was a boy just wanting to be like his dad. My dad, when he was younger, raced motocross, go karts, and played drums. So growing up, I was on the go karts, I was into motocross, and I wanted to play drums. I wanted to be like my dad because my dad is my hero, still is to this day. And so yeah, I think that was part of the factor. My his brother, my uncle, also played drums, so drums kind of was in the family. They didn't really pursue it as a career; it was just kind of a
Yeah.
hobby. And then we were at the time going to this small, like super small, Southern Baptist church in South Carolina. They got a new pastor, and the pastor like put some drums on stage, which we all know in a Southern Baptist church means everyone's going to hell.
Yeah.
So yeah, his son, named Justin, he played drums started playing drums at the church, and I just thought it was the coolest thing. Justin was a few years older than me, and I've always like gravitated towards people who were older than me to like hang out with. Never like even as a young person, I never really hung out with people my age. I always wanted to
Mhm.
hang out with the older crowd. So I just thought he was the coolest dude ever. And yeah, and then Justin was actually the catalyst for introducing me to bands like POD,
Oh
Project
yeah.
86. Those were like the main 2. And then as
Right.
soon as I heard POD, I fell in love with music and was like, this is what I want to do with my life. When that music video from Southtown played on MTV, TRL that one day, and I saw all those people around the band like just moshing and everything in that
Hmm.
music video, dude, I was like, that's what I want to do with my life. And honestly, that just kind of set me on the trajectory for learning how to play drums and just pursuing it and see what I could do with it.
Yeah, like I guess once you got into Disciple, I don't know about like, of course, probably once you got into Disciple and also like probably before Disciple, you probably like got to meet POD, right? At one point?
No,
No.
no, I actually didn't get to meet. I actually have an amazing story of how I met POD.
Yeah.
If you would like to hear
Yeah,
it.
sure, man.
Okay, so I want to say this was okay. So this actually is going to take a minute to set up.
That's
So
fine.
bear with me, but it's a podcast, so
Yeah.
that's what it's about, telling stories. Okay, so years ago we were on tour and we were out in LA and we had a day off, and a fan of ours had the hookup for free passes to Disneyland. So she worked there, so she was able to get us passes and get us into Disneyland, which we were like, heck yeah, like let's go to Disney. That'll be super cool. So we went, and I was like, this I don't get it. You know, I was just kind of like, I don't want to be here. Like I was appreciative of the free passes, but I was
Yeah.
just like, you know, everybody's so hype on Disney, and I'm just like, I don't get it. I'm
You
not
didn't
into
like Disney
this.
as a kid? Or
I
at
mean,
all?
well, my parents took me when I was like 2 years old or three. I don't really
Oh,
remember much of it, anyways. I'm very confident that whenever I have kids one day, that I will take them to Disney and have the time of my life. But as a just grown, you know, single man at the time, I was just like, I don't. I kind of would be much rather be doing stuff. So we were actually standing in line for a ride, and I was just like on my phone, like looking around, and POD's tour schedule popped up, and they were playing like 2 hours north of LA in a place called Agora Hills, I believe.
okay.
And uh, I was like, dude, how do I get to this show? Because up to this point, I've never seen POD live. Like, I was a terrible music fan. I was also the son of parents who really like they cared about me so much that they were scared for me to go to like music venues and stuff. Like,
Oh,
and POD would play like the Orange Pill in Asheville, North Carolina, which was like the
yeah.
closest venue that they would play. But at that time, you know, my parents were just concerned about me going to a club to see a show, which I totally, you know, at the time was mad at them for. But now that I'm older, I'm like, thank you for caring enough for me. Like, that's really cool that you guys were like that. So anyways, this is the first time I'm getting to see POD, like Possibility, and I'm like, who can I call? Like, I know people in LA who would be down to go to a show. So I called my buddy Mario, who's a promoter out there, and I was
Hmm.
like, hey man, what are you doing? He's like, nothing. And I was like, does that mean like nothing? Like you're just free for the rest of the day? He's like, yeah. And I'm like, well, POD's playing 2 hours north of LA. I'm at Disneyland. This is boring. Do you want to come pick me up and we go to the POD show? And he was like, yeah, dude, I'm getting in the car right now. So I like got online, bought tickets, and I told the guys, I was like, I'm gonna go see POD tonight. I'll see y'all back at the bus later. So Mario picks me up. We go to the show. I get front row, and it was like the most incredible night of my life. Sonny kept putting the microphone in my face because I was singing every word. They started playing Southtown. I had crocodile tears rolling down my face, and I'm like, if I do get to meet these guys, they're gonna think I'm the weirdest freak ever because they're gonna be like, that's the dude who was crying during Southtown. But like that song literally like changed my life, and so I connect with it in such a huge way. Um, and so I wasn't able to meet them after the show that night, but there happened to be some Disciple fans at that show, and one of them snagged a set list, and they were like, "You should have this." And I was like, "Are you kidding me?"
Oh.
I was like, I thank you so much." And so I put it on the wall of my bunk in the tour bus and kept it for years. So
Wow.
I would say 2 or 3 years passed. Well, I live in the upstate of South Carolina, And a couple of Christmases ago, I want to say this was 2018. Um, Man, it's crazy. It's been that long.
Yeah.
Uh, I see that POD is playing in Greenville, South Carolina, which is not too far from where I'm at. And it was on my dad's birthday. And I was like, Dad, I love you, but I'm gonna go see this POD show. They never come to to the upstate. Like
Yeah.
I want to, and he was like, no, totally go. So I went to the show. A buddy's band of mine, they're called Islander. They were playing on that
Hmm.
tour, and so after the show, I was helping them load out into their trailer, just hanging out in the parking lot. And of course, their van is next to POD's bus. Standing there, and all of a sudden, Wov, the drummer, comes walking by, and I was like, this is my shot. This is my chance. I'm just gonna go say what's up. And so I just walked up to him. And I was like, hey, Wov, can I have like a couple minutes of your time? And he was like, absolutely. Literally, like one of the nicest people I've ever met. Totally gracious. He looked like he was on a mission to go do something, and I totally wrecked it. And he took the time to sit there and like talk to me. And I was just like, man, just want to tell you, your drumming by far is the like biggest inspiration for me playing music. I was like, you're the reason I play drums. I was like, and now I get to do what you do. Like I get to play drums and everything. He's like, man, that's super cool. He's like, thanks for saying that. And then like right at the end of the conversation, he's like, you said you played for a band? And I was like, yeah, yes, sir. And he goes, well, what's the name of your band? And I was like, Disciple. And he goes, like, Disciple. And I was like, yeah. He's like, game on, Disciple. And I was like, yeah. And he goes, oh crap. He's like, dude, come with me. And I'm like, I mean, the heavens are like opening up, and I'm just
Yeah.
sitting here like melting into the ground. And he walks me to the front of the bus, like opens the door and is like, come on up, man. And so I walked up on the bus, and he like came up behind me and was like, yelled at everybody. He was like, yo, the homie from Disciples here. And Sonny was standing in the front lounge, and he's like, no way. He's like, dude, super cool for you to be here. He's like, come in and sit down. And I literally just went in and just made myself at home on their bus and just sat there and just hung out for probably 30, 45 minutes. And the coolest thing, I brought that set list that I gotten at the show years ago. I
Yo.
had it in my pocket, and I was like, just in case I get to meet them, I'll get them to sign it. And so I'm like, I literally feel like just the biggest fanboy. Like I'm super nervous, like up on their bus. Like I don't ever get nervous around anybody, but they are the
Mm-hmm.
one band that can make me nervous. And I like nervously pulled the set list out, and I was like, guys, I was like, y'all played a show in California a couple years ago that I was at, and I didn't get to meet you. I was like, but I still have the set list. It's been on the wall of my tour bus ever since. And I was like, I was hoping to get you guys to sign it. And Sonny thought it was the coolest thing that I had hung on to it. And so now I have it sitting in my living room signed and
Wow.
everything. So that's my I met POD story, and it was about the most epic way I could have met them. So
I love that. I think I even have a disciple set list in my room still from the tour that you guys came in with Cutlass. Even
yeah.
it's
Oh, okay.
somewhere. Yeah, I don't know if you remember
Where did
that one.
we come in?
Steinbach.
Oh yeah, is that the one where I wore that hockey jersey?
I forget what you wore that day, but
Well, we played two shows in Canada. You know what? It wasn't Steinbach. We played in Winnipeg, and
mhm.
I went against all of my religions. And somebody asked me, would I be willing to wear a Winnipeg
Yeah.
Jets jersey for the first song? And I was like, sure. And
Mhm.
the jersey was like a 3X, and
Oh,
it kept getting in between my hands and my sticks, and I could like barely play. It was real bad. So
dang. Yeah.
so
Yeah, I didn't go to the Winnipeg show. I didn't know about you guys before that, but I knew about
okay,
you guys after that. But yeah,
cool.
wow. So
Nice.
like for like I guess for people getting into like drumming, like I guess musicians are trying to get into drumming. What do you suggest to people that are trying to start, I guess, inspiring drummers?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, if you're serious about wanting to learn, there's plenty of people out there who teach drums. So I mean, it's the thing with drums is it's a little bit of an investment, and I always recommend to like even parents who have kids that are interested in playing drums. I'm like, don't go out and buy a $3,000 drum set. Don't do it. I've seen people do that because they're like, well, if I buy them the best, then they're gonna be like great at it. And it's like, no, 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 no. Like, buy you a cheap starter kit used, so that if it ends up becoming something that you lose interest in, or maybe the time and money investment just becomes not worth it to you, you don't have that much money wrapped up into it, and you're not in a deep hole of debt or
Yeah.
anything. Because drums are expensive, because you got to buy the drums, and then you got to buy the hardware, and then you got to buy the cymbals, and then you got to buy the sticks, then you got to buy the heads. Literally, I picked an instrument that has 4 million parts, and every day I question why. So so yeah, I obviously I would just recommend, like, if you got the passion for it, I mean, find an instructor that you really like working with, who's educated and will teach you the good habits and everything. And just start training with somebody who can kind of take you there. I had that when I was younger. I worked there was an old Southern rock band called the Marshall Tucker Band, that is from the town that I grew up most of my life in.
Yeah.
And the Marshall Tucker Band was a huge act. Like, they opened like for Leonard Skinner, Allman Brothers. Like, they were really big back in the 70s. But I got to work with the original drummer, Paul Riddle, and that's who basically taught me all the basics of drumming and got me to a place where I was playing solid. And then beyond that, he wasn't a metal drummer, so I had to teach myself how to play double kick. But I watched a lot of videos of some of my favorite drummers who played double kick and just kind of figured it out. So yeah, lessons, practice, just having that drive. If you want to learn something, just put your mind to it and do it.
Exactly. And I
Yeah.
talked to, what is it, a drummer before you, actually, I guess the other day, and it was a band called First 11. He's a drummer and everything, and he just said basically the same thing. Just do it. If you have a great teacher, do
Yeah.
it, right? And didn't you do teachings, I guess, for drumming? I remember you were doing that, right?
Yeah, I did Skype teaching for a
Mm-hmm.
while. And I after a while, like, I've always like had a love-hate relationship with teaching, and it's not because of like students or anything. It's just I I never majored in music. I never, the only music education that I really had was marching drumline in high school.
Hmm.
So that's really the only time that I ever got like this music theory and stuff. So I think it more comes down to, like, I don't feel like I'm giving my students enough information or whatnot. Like, I can show them how to play. I can take somebody who doesn't know how to play and like get them to a place where they're playing
Yeah.
good. But there's a certain point where I'm like, I can't help you anymore, you know,
Yeah.
um, which isn't a bad thing, because I kind of consider myself like the guy who can take somebody who's very beginner or has never played at all and get you to a point where you're playing really good. And then at a certain point, like if you're wanting to dive into like all the music theory and math rock and all that, I'm not your guy. But yeah, I've actually got one student right now that I took on. It's a family friend of mine, and their kid just expressed interest in drums, and I was like, yeah, like, let me work with him. And already within 3 weeks, he went from never playing drums to now like just playing solid beats. So
That's
I
great.
know I know that I can teach somebody, but at the same time, I just don't have a passion for teaching.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm doing it a lot, I kind of find myself like lacking the motivation to be good at it. And if somebody's going to pay me money to do that, I would much rather, you know, um, be passionate about it instead of take their
Exactly.
money and feel like I'm not giving them their money's worth.
Right.
So,
And that's what you do with, also, like, with music. You have to be passionate on what you're making, right?
oh yeah, for sure. I
Yeah.
mean, it people can tell really quick whether your heart's in it or not, you know. And that's not to say that I never gave people their money's worth as far as like
Mm-hmm.
lessons go. It's just I know myself, and it's like, yeah, there's I go through different seasons where I'm like really good with teaching, and then I'm like,
Yeah, not
yeah,
this season.
I
Yeah.
yeah, I'm not. my brain is too sporadic to
Yeah.
stay, like focused on
Yeah.
this thing.
I
So,
get you. Why Disciple? How'd you find Disciple really?
man, that's a crazy story in of itself too. So without like the super long story,
Yeah.
basically I played in church pretty much my whole life. The last church that I played at, um, it it led me to meeting a band in Atlanta, called After Edmond. They were an indie pop rock Christian band back in the day. They had like seen some good success. They had gotten nominated for a Grammy like 2 years before I found them. And I mean, these guys were amazing songwriters and musicians. Well, I was down in Atlanta working with a producer who had worked with my church, and he also just so happened to be the producer for Family Force 5. And I was down in Atlanta working on some tracks with him, and he was like, "Man," he's like, "what do you want to do with this music thing?" I was like, "Well, I'd love to tour. I've never gotten a tour, and it's always been my dream." And he's like, "Well, I'll keep my ears open." And then, like, within a couple weeks, he called me and was like, "Hey, man, after Edmund's drummer left the band, I feel like you'd be a good fit." So I pursued that audition, got the job in 2011, toured with them for 2 years till the end of 2013. And one of the last runs that we did in America, we were opening for Disciple. So that's how I got to meet Disciple. And Disciple's another band that I listened to since I was young. So when I found out we were opening for them, I was like losing my mind. I was like, we got 9 shows to play with them. I get to watch them 9 times. Like, this is going to be epic. This is the biggest thing I've ever done, like, as far as music goes. And so, a guy that I went to church with, I had no idea he used to be the road manager for Disciple, had zero clue that he worked for them. Well, this guy, Evan, he called me like right before this tour and was like, "Hey, man, what if I told you that Disciple may possibly be interested in you playing drums for them?" And I just thought he was kidding. I thought he was just pulling my leg, and I was like, "Man," I was like, "Shut up, that's not funny." Um, but he's like, "No, I'm serious." He's like, uh, "Trent's leaving at the end of the year.
Yeah.
Kevin asked me for suggestions. I threw your name in the pot, and he's interested in you. And he's going to be watching you on tour, so don't screw it up." Which was like
Oh.
instantaneously like dropping a 1,000,000-pound brick of pressure on my brain.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, man, I played that tour, and after Edmund was kind of dissolving and splitting up at the end of 2013, Kevin called me after the tour and was like, "Hey, I like the way you play. Like, would you be interested in touring or auditioning for us?" And I was like, "Yeah, I would love that." And ended up getting an audition with Disciple, and they gave me a call back and offered me the job, and I started New Year's Day of 2014 was my first day as a member of Disciple. So
Crazy
it was just,
ride.
yeah, man, it was just bam, bam, bam. I literally went from church to touring to like touring for 2 years, and then directly into Disciple. Like it's been nuts, and it's been a little over 7 years that I've been with
Yeah.
Disciple
I,
now.
I was just looking at that. I'm like, this band is like, has been past me for, I guess, I'm 21, and this band has been around
Yep.
29 years, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
dude.
It's like,
Kevin
wow.
Kevin's been rocking it, man. He
Yeah.
he is legit. Like, I'm like, you have found the fountain of youth. Like, it's
Yeah.
probably why his last name's Young. I mean, it probably has something to do with it. We always call him Forever Young. And you know, that dude just, I mean, he's on a mission. He's been on a mission since
Hmm.
he started the band, and he's not gonna stop until God tells him to, which I like respect so much, because the
Yeah.
road is not easy, like, at all. Even now, like, it's much easier than it used to be. Obviously we've got technology now. You got a tour bus. You got it. Not saying that stuff makes it this glamorous life, because it's definitely
Hmm.
not a glamorous life. But I mean, Kevin came through the years of no internet, having to stop at a payphone to call home, reading books on a bus for entertainment. Like they went through some really hard years of touring, and that guy has persevered through all of it. And I'm like, I would have quit a long time ago.
Yeah.
Like, so I'm thankful that he has that drive like that. Because man, he already, we release an album and he's already talking about the next album and the album after that. So
Jeez.
it's crazy because the dude just always has eyes for, okay, what's
The
next?
future.
Like what
Yeah.
are we doing next? It's not, man, I'm thinking about like hanging this up. Like
That's
he's like
good.
an Energizer bunny. Has infinitely more energy than I'll ever have. So
Don't you gotta have some of that drive from Kevin being with
oh
him
yeah,
that
man.
long?
Do what now?
For being that long with Kevin, you gotta like have some of that energy, right?
Oh yeah, dude. I mean, it's a shared thing. Like, eh, if you get out on tour and your heart's not in touring, or I mean, not saying that we don't have our bad days. Obviously, there's days where you doubt anything you're doing. Um, and you'll have hard days no matter what. But like if you get out and touring is just not your thing, and I've seen this, like people get out there and they're just miserable because it's like some people just
It's a
aren't
hard
built for
life.
it. Yeah, they're just not built for it. They think, oh yeah, I can do the touring thing, and then it just becomes like, nope, I'm not made for this. Or there's guys who tour for so long and then it has a shelf life, and they're like, I'm ready to be at home.
Very true.
So touring has a shelf life with me. I have no idea when that day will come when I'm like, yeah, I'm ready to be home full time. But I don't plan on it being anytime soon because I love what I do, and I love
Mm,
getting to go see places and you know make a living playing music.
yeah.
So
And you get to travel too. That's one thing I'm like, and also meeting us, like the fans and everything. You get to see the people that are rocking out
yes,
to your stuff, man.
yes, that it's like I love playing drums, but the one thing that I've loved most about being a disciple is I am a people person. I love people. Like I'm a little more introverted than I used to be. I used to be an extreme extrovert. Um, Touring made me a little bit more of an introvert, but I love like talking to people. I love hearing their stories. A lot of our fans have stories that relate to songs. So like hearing how the songs maybe help them through a certain situation in their life. Like I love that, and I love that about our band that we have that personal connection with our fans because, you know, I'd never deny anyone a conversation or a picture or signing something because it's like you literally pay my bills. Like you are so kind to take your hard-earned money and like our music enough to like keep food on my table and keep a roof over my head. Like that's the least I could do to say thank
Right.
you. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's a privilege. Like we get to hear so many cool stories and meet a lot of cool people along the way.
Yeah.
So
I bet the amount of stories and probably the amount of crazy fans you met too, right?
there's I mean,
I
it
got it.
comes and goes, but I mean, if the amazing stories far outweigh anything crazy that happens. I mean, we do have crazy situations that have happened and that we've had to deal with. But like I said, those are few and far between compared to all the amazing stuff that we hear and that we get to see and experience.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Heck yeah, man. That's great. I love that. You think it's hard to like this is one thing I don't know if you know, but like you've talked about this much, but like you think it's hard to stay in I guess this style or this mentality of being in a Christian rock or like Christian artist in today's music, you think?
Um,
If I'm wording this correctly, I guess.
Yeah, I'm trying to understand what you're asking.
It's
Like,
like
is it hard to like
staying
stay like claiming that? I don't know.
yeah, like this kind of title of like, hey, why don't you guys go into like, I guess not a Christian, just go into like rock, not be this title
Yeah,
of a Christian, yeah, band.
yeah, totally. Well, there's a lot of bands that do that. And that's I would never ever say that they're wrong for doing that. Like Skillet, like they
Yeah,
have found I mean, they have literally found the pot of gold that they can exist in the Christian market very well, and they also exist in the mainstream market, and they kill it in both, which is incredible. And
Right.
there's nothing wrong with that, and I think it's awesome. Disciple, not to say that we have it right or we're doing it better than all the other bands, but Disciple, ever since Kevin started it, has been a very ministry focused band. And Kevin's literally never held back with any of the words. You've never really had to like wonder like, oh, I wonder what this song's about, or
Yeah.
like kind of dissecting like the message. So we're very blatant, like it's very obvious that we're a Christian band.
Yeah.
So, mainstream is probably not going to be as open to somebody who is as blatant, um, and very, very like publicly Christian in all the lyrics and everything.
Hmm.
So yeah, I think it's easy to stay that way because Kevin has had such a direct calling and focus on that right there the entirety of the band, and he's like refused to sell it out to anything other than that. So I feel like it's easy to kind of fall in line with that because I mean honestly being kind of, I mean, he started this band and he's the leader of it.
Yeah.
He's kind of the leadership, and so he's made those calls, and it's just like, yeah, man, I'm on board. Like, cool, let's do this. um
But like,
uh
don't you have like, I know like you guys are a group and collective. Don't you guys like talk about this kind of stuff as well? I guess about like other mainstream rock, I guess, artists and other mainstream bands about this kind of stuff as well, or no?
Not really. I mean, some of our songs have like played on mainstream radio
Hmm.
in the past couple of years. Nothing that we really, it was definitely nothing that we set out to be like in the studio, like, okay, we're going to write a song that's going to be on Christian radio and mainstream radio.
Oh, okay.
It's just like, the record label will be like, hey, we could pitch this to mainstream. Like, I think that they would like that. And some mainstream stations picked it up. And it's like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, cool. But it's honestly not really a conversation that we ever really talk about, man. Like we literally just we'll play anywhere. Like, I
Yeah.
mean, like we'll play clubs, we'll play places where there's alcohol being served, like whatever they call like a mainstream venue and all
Yeah.
that. We'll play anywhere, man, because we're just trying to be,
Get
you
your
know,
name out there, right?
well, no, not even that.
Okay.
We're just trying to be like, light, a light in the darkness. As cliche as that saying is, it's like we go into clubs and there will be tours that we're on where Kevin's like, I'm not gonna preach from stage, and we're just gonna let the music like speak for itself.
Okay.
And it's very effective. You get to like hang out with these people after the show who are like, I'm an atheist, but you guys rock, and I mean, you can go on YouTube and like find comments on these videos where people are like, I don't believe what you guys believe at all, but I love your music. And it's
Yeah.
like really cool that we have that ability to have fans who don't believe what we're saying in these songs, but they're still getting the positive message
Yeah.
of Jesus, and they know what we stand for. So I mean, I think it's just who we are, man. We don't really think about it too much, and we don't try to dissect it. We just play our shows and
Hmm.
go wherever people want us.
I love that. I love that.
So
Even when I got to meet you guys, you were just like this bundle of joy when I got to meet you guys. You guys were just like a family, I guess, really, when I met you guys.
yeah, man, that's how we are all the time. We are literally like brothers. It's nonstop laughter pretty much from the time we leave Nashville till the time we get back. And, um, we all just get along really, really well, which makes being in a band a whole lot easier because there's a lot of bands out there with people that do not like each other. And I
Yeah,
couldn't imagine being in a situation like that on the road.
I
So,
feel that. What do you like do in your pastime when you're not working on music?
for me, when I'm home,
Mm,
I have a girlfriend, and
okay.
she lives about an hour and 15 minutes away from me. So there's a lot of going back and forth. She lives up in the mountains, which is really cool. So I get to like escape to the mountains to go hang out for the day and do all this stuff. So typically free time is spent like kind of catching up with family and all that. And I'm talking from the terms of like a typical tour year where I'm
Yeah.
like in and out a lot. This past year, it's been a lot of sitting around,
Yeah.
honestly. There hasn't been much to do. Um, but yeah, I'll go see my girlfriend, hang out with her, road trip. I'll go see my family. I'm a wood burning artist.
Yeah.
I've done a lot of wood burning art that has kept me busy. Um, I I have a Mustang that I'm constantly tinkering with and driving around. I like fast cars. I like NASCAR, if you couldn't tell by my
Yeah.
shirt.
Yeah.
So I'm a huge NASCAR fan. I'm a Clemson football fan, and I'm a Nashville Predators hockey fan. We sucked
Oh.
this year so
Oh.
bad. It's literally the most painful season ever. But you know,
Y-
um,
Yeah. Winnipeg doesn't like you guys a lot.
oh no,
Yeah.
nobody likes us.
No.
We don't even like ourselves this year because we're so bad. But yeah, so I do a lot of that, and uh I'll play video games like once every 3 months. Like
Okay.
I have a PS4. I barely pick up, but every now and then I'll get in the mood to play a video game. And and yeah, and I go to a lot of coffee shops. I love coffee.
You're a coffee guy. Okay.
I'm sitting here drinking
Well, yeah.
espresso right now. So yeah.
Okay. That's
But yeah, I mean, I'm pretty boring when I'm home. Like if somebody was like, "Dude, I'd love to come hang out with you," and like all this, I'm like, you would be the most bored. Like you'd be like, I'm out after like an hour. Like Joey, your life
nah.
is super boring.
Nah. I think honestly, you could probably have someone come over and you could show them stuff. Like I saw a pet in your house just walking amongst your room.
Yeah,
I saw. So
yeah.
there's that.
That's Ivy.
Ivy.
That's my almost 8-month-old kitten.
Aw.
And she's super awesome. She I didn't know that I wanted a little buddy in the house until last year. I actually rescued a little kitten out of the woods near my house, and she unfortunately passed away two
Yeah.
weeks later, and it was like one of the hardest things I've experienced. And after that, my heart was so broken, and I was like, I don't know that I want another animal. And I
Hmm.
my family and even my girlfriend would encourage me. They were like, you should get another one. Like,
Yeah, I'm
and I was like,
surprised so soon actually. That's one thing I was surprised
yeah,
about that.
it was a it was one of the best decisions I made because she's honestly, I mean, pets are therapeutic,
Hmm.
and Ivy has helped me heal a lot, and from that, and it was a pretty traumatic experience with all that stuff. But man, she's great. It's fun coming home to something that uh enjoys being like. I mean, she's literally like a little human being. She just she'll stay attached to me pretty much anytime I'm home.
Does she have an
And
attitude yet or no?
dude, I literally I call it the cat lottery because sometimes you can end up with cats that suck.
Yeah, I know.
But she is legit like the most chill. Like I have a harness for her. This is showing how lame I am. But I have a harness for her and a leash, and I'll take her like on walks outside,
Oh,
and
you're one of those people? Okay.
she'll just walk with me outside. Like, I don't take her to like out in public with like people, but I'll take her out in the yard so she can just
Mm,
get some like sunlight on like a
right.
really nice day. But yeah, man, she's so cool, and like she just constantly wants to be where I'm at and just cuddle up,
I love
and
that.
she doesn't have an attitude. If I tell her if she's doing something she's not supposed to and I say no, she stops immediately. Like she listens to me, and she's a good little kitty.
I
So
love that.
yeah.
I don't have pets anymore, but when I had a cat like years and years ago, and this cat was a prankster cat. So,
Yeah.
like for instance, you picked on him, he gets you back. So I had a neighbor that always like spooked him and everything. And one time he spooked the cat. The cat went on the next day into his mailbox, went in behind the mailbox. When he went to grab the paper, he jumped out and scared him when he grabbed the paper. So it's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, it's like for some reason I feel like there's like this like stigma, like, guys and cats, like that's kind of weird. Like guys are normally like with dogs, and I'm like, man, I love
Eh,
dogs, but
yeah.
I I like the fact that I can go and leave her here, and she's self-sufficient and can like take care of herself, and I don't have to run home every 2 hours to take my dog out to go to the bathroom. So for my lifestyle, a cat is great.
Oh
Now,
yeah.
don't get me wrong, I love dogs, and I will most likely have one day when I'm married, and someone can actually be there to make sure that the dog
True.
survives. But for now, she very much complements my on the go lifestyle,
I
because
feel that.
even though we're not touring, I'm a pretty on the go person. I can't sit around the house too
Yeah,
long, so
I
I'm
get that.
constantly getting
Well,
out.
yeah, you're on tour and you're on the clock with Disciple, right?
Do it now.
Well, you always go on tour, right? And then you're on the clock with Disciple making music,
Yeah.
right? So yeah, you
Well,
can't do that.
this past year, like there's been no Disciple anything, so I've kind of had to just like create my own routine of getting out of the house every day and just like changing up my scenery to kind of keep my brain like from going insane. I do a lot of working out. We have a big fitness group with the band guys and a few of other of our friends from all around the country, and we all have a Beachbody subscription. So we've all gone through like P90X and different programs on Beachbody. So that's kept me sane. It's given me something to do every day and like get out there and sweat and work hard at it.
Hmm.
And which has been rewarding. So
Yeah, that's great. It's
yeah,
really
man.
great. Will you ever do any like solo projects for yourself? Maybe like help with other bands out, or I don't know, something. Have you?
Never have done any solo projects. That I would not be good at that because I'm not really like other than drums, like I know the notes on a piano, but I could never play the piano
Yeah.
and like wow you or anything. I know two chords on the guitar, maybe a few more. I'm not like an amazing
Yeah,
guitar player.
I thought you were like a guitar player as well.
No,
No.
very, 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 very amateur. I can't sit there and write a song. So I'm pretty much the guy, like if you have a song and you're like, hey, we need some dope drum parts, people will come to me and ask me to write drum parts. So I've done that for Decipher Down. I've played
Yeah.
on a couple of their records. I did that for a Fireflight single a couple years ago called Die Free. Um, Trying to think of if I've played on any other bands, but I've actually played live for more bands than I've played on their records. So I've played for Project 86, Decipher Down, Fireflight. Uh, Dang, there's another one in there. Oh, I played for Cutlass.
Oh.
Um,
Yeah.
and yeah, I
Yeah,
guess
you played with Cutlass on the tour that you were
yeah,
here.
in
Yeah,
Canada.
in
Okay,
Canada.
yeah, those Canada shows I played because their normal drummer couldn't make like the first four shows, I think.
Yeah.
So they asked me to fill in. So yeah, I've gotten to play with like a lot of cool bands, and like I like it that way, but I can never sit down and write a solo album. There's no way.
No take in the future, you think, or no?
I mean, like if I were to work with like Josiah on
Yeah.
something, like Josiah is such an amazing like songwriter and producer and all that. So if I were to work with him, I'm sure we could put something together, but it would be pretty much him playing all the instruments.
That'll be
um,
interesting, just Josiah and then you just drumming. So it's
yeah. Him and Kevin both swear that I can sing good, and uh I just don't have confidence in it, but I I guess I have a talent for singing if both of them are constantly like trying to get me to sing. So maybe there one day will be a song that maybe me and Joe put together and I
be
actually
cool.
sing all the way through. Who knows?
I would like that. I would like to hear that. I think probably even the Disciple fans would like to hear that even.
Yeah, yeah. But the great thing about it is if I go to record it and I suck, nobody ever has to hear it. So
True.
that's the good thing.
That's true.
That's the
You
good
just
thing.
have to get you vocally prepared first, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get that. I guess I don't know if you're allowed to talk about this, but like any word on anything for the next Disciple thing? You working on any features for the bands for it? I don't know. What's in the end for
Um
that?
Yeah, I mean, we're always working on new Disciple music.
Mm,
As far as features go, that hasn't been discussed yet, so I don't. There's actually nothing to report there. Um, and but yeah, we rented out a cabin in Kentucky the weekend after our last live stream. So I guess that would have been the first week of February.
hmm.
We rented out a cabin for 3 days, and all of us went up there, had recording gear, and we just spent all 3 days just writing music for the new record. And we came away with like 15, 20 songs,
Oh, wow.
I believe. Like either some of them were just music ideas, some of them were music and lyrics, some of them were just lyrics, so we're piecing stuff together. But yeah, I mean the next Disciple album is very much in full swing.
Okay.
And it's what we got going is pretty awesome so
That's
far.
great. I love
So
that.
yeah.
Um, any chance you have an idea for a single, you think? Do you think this year or no?
This year it's possible. It's possible. Maybe late this year.
Late this year? Okay.
Yeah,
Makes
yeah.
sense.
But again, that's just me guessing because
Yeah.
there's not been any kind of official like talks or a date or anything like that. We're still very early, like in the putting the songs together
Yeah.
process.
I get that.
So
I'm shocked
yeah.
you guys went like I guess this late. I don't know if this is late. I don't know. Would this
Do
be
I know?
like I don't know if this would be like late for you guys like writing. I don't know if this is like your typical writing
Well,
time.
it is late because last year screwed up everything because normally we're on a normal tour year, we're on the bus every day and there's songs being written every day because whenever we pull into a city, whether it's an off day or we're playing that night, there's a lot of downtime that we're on the
Okay.
bus. And Josiah and Kevin both are just music writing machines and
Hmm.
they're just constantly working on stuff. So music's constantly getting made.
Mm-hmm.
So this whole past year we haven't been on the bus, so there hasn't been active demos. Everybody's been home with their kids. Kevin's kids
Yeah.
obviously could not go to school, so they're being homeschooled. So Kevin's, um, got new priorities and new responsibilities that he's got to focus on every day, making sure his kids are getting through school. Josiah's in the same boat, and so it just last year just kind of screwed us up and didn't allow for that time that we normally are used to in writing songs.
Mm-hmm.
So it was kind of like at the beginning of this year, we were like, oh, like we got to write a record.
Right.
So we started doing that. We're probably going to rent out another cabin and do a weekend of writing again, just to kind of like have another weekend to start developing the ideas that we already have or present new ideas that maybe we've come up with. But yeah, it's definitely late in the process for us for sure.
Yeah.
But nothing about last year was normal, and we're just
Oh
kind of
yeah.
having to roll with it.
I get that. Like even for a lot of artists that we know probably just started working on music, I think.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I mean, also, our deluxe edition songs for Love Letter Killshot, the three that we released, we actually all recorded that from our individual homes.
Oh wow, really?
So I recorded the drums right here. There's a drum kit immediately to my right. That's all hooked up to all the recording equipment and everything. And I'm able to record here, send the files to Josiah in Nashville. All the other guys were able to record from their homes, and we actually put those three songs together quarantine style, and released them. And then Darkness Dies went number one for 9 weeks. And we're
Yeah.
just like, we literally just self-produced this song from our homes, and it's our longest chart topping song that we've ever released. So it was an accomplishment. It was something
Hmm.
we've never done before, never tried, but it showed us that we could do it. It showed us that push comes to shove, we can make a record from our homes.
Yeah, you could do that probably in the future.
in
It's a
in
potential.
separate states too,
Yeah.
but yeah, technology's crazy.
Oh yeah. It's really shaped it since you joined actually in Disciple even, right?
Oh yeah,
Oh
for
yeah.
sure.
Yeah. There's also a thing. I was searching this before you were coming on here. I remember this. Last year or so, you guys announced like a worship group thing, and then nothing came about that. What happened to that? Is that
Oh
still
no,
happening?
there's plenty coming about with it.
Okay.
There's a whole merch line that you
Mm-hmm.
can order, honor and glory, like hats and shirts and all that stuff. The record is actually almost done, and I think it's got to be turned in by the end of March.
Hmm.
And I say record, it's not a full length record. I think it's a 5-song EP. The label
Okay.
wanted to start out with a 5-song EP.
Just see how
Um,
it's like, right?
yeah, just to see kind of what the response is and
Right.
everything. But I think it's going to be a good response. I think our fans have asked for a Disciple worship album for a long
Yeah.
time, and we wanted to leave Disciple as the rock band
Right.
because sometimes whenever a band like us releases a worship album, fans get confused. They think you're selling out, and it's just like, no, that's not what we want. We want Disciple to always like be a rock band. Like the day that Disciple is not a band anymore, it dies as a rock band. So that's why we gave the worship project a different name,
Hmm.
just to kind of prevent confusion as far as that goes. But yeah, it's very much in the works.
Okay.
It's getting close to being done. But yeah,
That's good.
there's a lot going on there.
Yeah. For some odd reason, I didn't see like on I think the BEC recordings like this Instagram or whatever. I saw that it just took off all the honor and glory stuff on social media, and I'm like, is that still happening in that? That's why I'm like,
Oh really?
yeah. I was
I didn't
looking
even
for the
know.
post in that and that. I remember
Didn't
they
even.
made a big promotion thing about it, that like
Huh.
weeks, like a couple months ago and everything. And I was searching for it, couldn't find it, but yeah,
Yeah,
weird.
I don't know. I didn't even know we were on their Instagram. So, but yeah, it's definitely still happening.
Okay, that's why I wanted to ask. I'm like, I didn't hear nothing new about it for a while, so I'm like, I was just curious about it. But yeah, also when we talked on the bus before that, I don't remember if you were a part of this, but you guys were supposed to do a metal side project. I don't know if
Mhm.
that's still in the works.
No, that kind of got shifted to the back burner.
Okay.
That was something that we kind of put in Andrew's court to where
Mm,
it was like if it was going to happen, we were going to kind of let him shape
yeah.
it. And yeah, it just kind of got pushed to the back burner because the worship album
Yeah.
kind of took priority, and now we're having to write a Disciple album. We honestly just don't
Yeah.
have time for it.
Yeah.
It,
Priorities
it,
are
it
first,
may
right?
it may still happen one day, but as of right now, it's not really at the forefront of anybody's mind. So, hey, can you hang on one second? It
Yeah.
sounds like my cat's tearing down my living room right after I was talking really good about her.
Okay.
It's exactly what I suspected. She loves ink pens, and if she gets
Ink
a hold
pen.
of
Oh
one,
no.
yeah, it's so funny. But yeah.
She that's not good. How many ink pens has she gone through?
Oh, I normally get them, but like if she finds one, it's just she doesn't stop playing with it.
Oh, okay.
And it's the worst when it's 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock in the morning and she finds one and I'm laying in bed like trying to sleep and all I hear is her just bouncing around and hitting the walls and everything. So I constantly am having to like keep pins up, and every
Aw.
now and then I'll leave them out and she'll find them. So
Ooh, you should put her in like your room, I guess, and just lock the room.
nah, she's got full reign of the house.
Oh, okay.
She's the little queen of the house. She can. I don't really care. It's just it gets annoying after a minute, so I take them away from her.
I get that. Favorite song you've done personally with the band?
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
Probably Panic Room. I would
Panic Room.
say
Okay.
because one, that song like I put so much into from the drumming standpoint. Like I just remember in the studio like sweat dripping off of my nose because I was just like playing so hard because I love that song. And that song is actually written very, very conducive to my life and what I was going through at the time. I had crippling depression and anxiety years ago, and the guys I would always talk to them about like what I was feeling and going through. And it was almost kind of like me venting to them and talking to them about my issues and my problems kind of turned into the lyrics of that song. And uh and that song too, um that's where I made my first vocal appearance on a Disciple record. There's a part where you hear somebody scream up under the vocals. Sometimes I scare myself, right before the second chorus. That's me screaming as hard as I could in the studio. And then the one where it whispers and it says, "Sometimes I scare myself." That's me whispering.
Okay.
Um, and so it's not like an amazing vocal feature, but it was kind of cool to be a part of it because it was like those words, the "sometimes I scare myself," literally was like exactly how I felt during all of that. And so that song helped me process a lot of my crap and move past, um, for the most part, anxiety and depression. Not saying that I still don't have some days where it just like comes up and slaps me in like right between the eyes,
Yeah.
because it does. But I have a much better hold on it these days to where I can like recognize it and be like, I'm gonna let myself feel this for a few minutes and then I'm gonna move on with my day and it's fine. Used
Yeah.
to it would cripple me, you know.
Hmm.
And so to be on the other side of that and kind of play Panic Room, hear how it's connected with people, hear how it's helped them through their journey with anxiety and depression. It's really cool, and I listen to that song and I'm like, that's kind of like almost like a milestone. It's like that's
Hmm.
where I was, and I'm not there
Yeah.
anymore.
That's great.
But it still exists there to help people in their own mess,
Right.
and what they're going through. So
You probably got so many stories and probably DMs from people of like, man, this song has helped me so much, right?
yeah, I've
Yeah.
heard a lot of stories about a lot of the songs on Love Letter Killshot. It's crazy how all those songs have connected with so many different people on so many different levels. And we were actually, like when we were about to release Love Letter Killshot, that's probably the darkest themed album, that Disciples ever had,
Really?
and as like darkest content, as far as all that stuff. And we were just kind of like a little bit nervous, but it's ended up like helping so many people. And, you know, just kind of goes to show like being real about your humanness and being real about, hey, we're in a band, but we're human beings. Like we get up, we put our pants on the same way you do. We have the same problems that you do. Just because we're on the road doesn't mean we're not susceptible to bad things happening.
Yeah.
We get calls that, hey, your grandmother is on her deathbed and you need to get home. That's happened to me. And we're not free of all that stuff. We're very much humans in a band. And sometimes people put us a little bit up on a pedestal. Maybe we don't have our lives are perfect and we don't have problems and all that. So to put those problems on display and be honest with them, I think that helps a lot of people when you're just honest, like about, hey, I go through this too. Because
Yeah.
usually people that are going through stuff, they don't want to hear how to fix it. They don't want to hear like your expert advice. They just want to know that they're not alone. And that brings about more healing than I think anything, because it's such an isolating feeling. So that's kind of become my own personal mission. I'm just like, you know what? Like I may never get to like have coffee or hang out or personally get to know everybody that I come in contact with, but if I can in an interaction let people know or make them feel like they're not alone, that's what I want to do in my life.
Yeah.
And so I think that's what our music provides, is just letting people know like you're not alone in this. It
Yeah.
feels like you are, but you're not.
I love
So
that. And of course, like mental awareness with like music, right, is a big thing for sure for you guys,
oh
right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure. We've seen, you know, big time celebrities, take their lives and everything.
Right.
Chester from Lincoln Park,
Yeah.
one of my rock idols. that was the first celebrity death I think I actually ever cried over, like actually shed tears over,
Mhm.
because that his songs were like ingrained in me, like it helped me learn the art of rock. So yeah, man, I mean, I see mental illness all over the place, not just in musicians, but obviously I have a heart for that because I am one. And
Mhm.
so when I see people in my industry struggling with that and going through that, like, I want to make sure that they're all right.
Right.
So,
Right.
so yeah.
Is there like a couple bands that have actually like reach out to you guys at all, I guess, for help in that kind of sense or no?
No, it's not. I mean, I've talked to people personally,
Yeah.
that have seen like, hey, I saw, because I've been always very outspoken about going through dark times. I've never
Mhm.
been afraid to say like what I'm going through, or sharing my experiences. And I've had people in other bands like reach out and be like, I I know that you go through this stuff too, so I just needed to call and like vent to you and just kind of hear maybe some advice or some wisdom that you
Yeah.
have for me or whatnot. So yeah, I've had friends reach out. Um, but but yeah, and as far as the other guys, I'm sure that they've had those conversations,
Yeah.
but we normally keep all that stuff,
Yeah, personal.
private,
Yeah.
like, because if somebody comes and talks to me about something, like, I'm not gonna go be like, hey, so and so told me that they were
Yeah.
struggling with, like,
Yeah,
that's
that's
not
not
at
your
all what we
place,
do.
right?
So
Yeah.
no, not at all.
No.
So yeah, so if they, I know that they've probably had those conversations with people, and which is awesome because Josiah and Kevin both are great lovers of people, and people love to talk to them about stuff too. So yeah, I think it's cool, just to kind of, I mean, life is just messy.
Yeah.
Life is hard. It's not easy to be a human being,
Hmm.
and those bad days just can compile on top of one another, and you just need to know, like, I'm not the only one going through this.
Yeah, and God's
So,
there to help you. Exactly.
absolutely.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
What do you think about the music industry as a whole right now? Like with labels, streaming, everything right now? Like what do you think
Yeah.
about that when you hear it?
Um, there's a lot of people who have like insane, not insane, like, I should say strong opinions about the music industry.
Hmm.
They just had, no matter what they think about it, it seems like when I hear it, it's like very strong opinions. I'm gonna be honest, I don't really ever think about it.
Okay.
Like, you know, I'm s- I'm a very chill person, and I'm just like, you know what, man? I get to play music. Yeah, streaming sometimes sucks.
Yeah.
Like, I literally got a royalty check in the mail the other day for 12 cents, and it cost them 47 cents to send me the piece of paper. So I'm like, how much sense does that make? Uh, and then it was really funny. Our producer Travis Wyrick sent us a photo to a group message shortly, like a couple days after that, and he pretty much got the same thing. And I think his was like 14 cent.
14
Uh,
cents.
and and this is a big time producer who's like worked on, Disciple, POD, all these like
Yeah.
crazy records. So yeah, streaming. I mean, streaming has definitely hurt the artist. Um, but it's just the way that it is. Like, and unfortunately, you just kind of have to play the game. Um, but yeah, I mean, the music industry as a whole, like, I just don't really pay attention to it,
Really?
honestly. Like, I get to play music for a living. There's shows on the books. Tell me where to play. All the other political stuff and all that, leave me out of it, man. I don't care. I
I feel
just,
you.
if I get to keep playing, that's all I care about. Like,
Mm,
if somebody comes in between me and playing and making a living, then sure, like, I'll probably have an opinion. But like, as far as the music industry goes, I mean, obviously every industry has its ups or has its good,
yeah.
or good
Ups and
things and its
downs.
bad
Yeah.
things. And I mean, the music industry obviously has a lot of dark sides to
Yeah.
it, but I mean, as far as it affecting me personally, I guess streaming would be the only thing that I would say,
Really?
like, streaming is kind of sucks,
Hmm.
because people don't buy albums anymore. There's definitely less income for artists, so that's why you see people having to tour so much today, um, in order to make a living, because that's really the only place to make a living. And so this past year,
That took a toll for
the only
everyone.
way musicians make income was completely ripped away. So everybody's just kind of been in panic mode.
Well, a lot
Uh,
of people are doing a lot of merch drops, I guess, really.
yeah, I mean that stuff works too, but like in-person shows where people can actually buy merch at a
Yeah.
show, it's like proven that you'll sell way more merch at a show because people when they see that live experience, they want a piece of merch afterwards to like whether they realize it or not, they want to take home a piece of merch from that show because they want to remember that experience and that feeling that they had during that
Yeah.
show. Like I even have that. Like if I go to a show
Mm-hmm.
and the band's just killing it, it's like I need a t-shirt.
Same. I
I
think,
don't
yeah. Like, even
like
for me, I'll even show you. I have a thing on my wall of
oh
all of my
sick.
bands and everything, and Disciples on there.
Heck yeah,
Yeah,
son.
man.
I like that.
Yeah, it's a bunch of bands. Like, let me focus
Is
that.
that
So, yeah.
Breaking Benjamin, In
There's
Flames,
Breaking
Red?
Benjamin, Escape the Fate, Red. There's Disciple,
Heck,
Alexis on
dude.
Fire, and Flames, Nickelback. We got Rarity, we got Papa Roach. Yeah, I got a bunch of bands,
Nice, dude.
dude. But yeah,
That's
I go
super.
to the concerts and everything just for mainly just to meet the bands, t-shirts, support the artists, honestly. And
And
also I'm a
and
concert photographer too, right? So
okay, cool.
yeah.
Yeah, that's what I always tell people. Like, people ask, like, what is the best way to support a band? It's buy their merch.
Yeah.
Like, even if it's a $5 poster, every little bit helps,
Yeah.
So merchandise is a way that a band survives, and it definitely helps. So with you being a merch
Mm-hmm.
purchaser, it's very much appreciated.
Yeah, for sure. I'll
So.
anytime you guys are in town, like I don't purchase merch online ever. I
Yeah.
try I just because the shipping wise, that's the only reason why. But when you guys
Yeah.
are in town, that's when I usually buy the merch.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
See, and at shows, that's where the band takes the most like profit
Yeah.
from it as well, to like support, buying more merch, keeping the tours going. Now, other like online and stuff, obviously there's like different fees and everything and all that, but online is still a great way to support a band. Like it's not bad or anything. I'm definitely not discouraging that at all. But if you are at a show and you can pick up a piece of merch, it helps a band so much.
For
So
sure. I love that. What are like going back into like I guess music industry, like I know you guys were into like a label and everything. Now you're into a label and everything. But like what are your thoughts about like artists getting into labels, new artists, like any suggestions to like new artists seeking something about that kind of info?
yeah. Well, I mean, honestly, Tooth and Nail's the first record label I've ever been signed to
Yeah.
personally. I guess Kevin actually would be a whole lot better.
Well, you guys
Per-
know like you were on Attack, I know for your record
Mhm.
when you joined and everything, and that was independent, right?
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
like I guess really what was like did you notice any difference once were like independent and then going into a record, I guess?
Yeah,
Label?
honestly, it really doesn't feel any different because Tooth and Nail literally is like super chill and easy to work with. Um, they offered us, the record contract, and they really like, not saying they're like hands off, they have nothing to do with the
Mhm.
records, but they really are hands off, like as far as like you guys write the music that you want to write, and then if y'all want us to listen to it and give you feedback, send it to us. And we're like, absolutely, we're going to send it to you
Yeah.
because we love to have feedback. We don't like it to be just us three being like, this is the final thing, because you need those outside ears to kind of tell you, like, this song is not
Not
as
good,
good as
right?
it could be, or, this chorus needs to be stronger. This verse doesn't really make sense. And that it's stuff that we can like, we develop this thing we call demoitis, where you have this demo forever of this song that you fall in love with, and then anything that's outside of that demo, like that you were to change, you instantly hate it because you're like, oh, I like the demo.
Right.
Well, you know the label will listen to it and be like, no, what you changed is good. You know, like you have your demo-itis on right now. You're attached to this demo that you're so used to hearing, and your brain's just not used to hearing it any other way. But honestly, man, like the team at Tooth and Nail has been amazing to us.
Yeah.
They've let us write the records that we want to write. They've let us write the lyrics that we want to write. And their marketing team has been great. I mean, literally all the forms and facets of Tooth and Nail, I have had nothing but a great experience
Yeah.
personally.
That's interesting. Like
And
most people, yeah, most people are like, yo, when you get into like a record label, you hear all these horror stories about a lot of
yeah,
these
and
labels.
that exists. That exists because there's a lot of bands and labels that, you know, bands will have stars in their eye, like, oh, we've got a record contract, but they don't realize that the record contract they're signing is really bad. You know, there's a lot of stipulations in that contract that's like, you know, the label owns every a percentage of everything you do. If you sell a t-shirt, the label gets a certain amount, you know, like and that's where the bad experiences happen is, you know, people are just so quick to be like, yeah, let me sign on the dotted line because it's a record contract. But you know, like I said, man, Tooth and Nail's been great with us, and Attack doing it independent was great too. You know, like it was a whole lot more work. There was a lot more things that we had to think about. So I am thankful for Tooth and Nail because they take care of a lot of stuff that we don't have to really think about anymore, which is great. But yeah, I mean, both experiences were
Great.
great. You know,
Yeah.
like doing the Kickstarter and all that stuff for Attack and Long Live the Rebels. It was both
Yeah.
like wildly successful, and you know, yeah.
Yeah, I remember I was helping back with Long Live the Rebels even at that time too.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was good. It was good. Honestly, Love Letter is my favorite. And of
It's my
course,
favorite too.
yeah, it's great. I loved it.
I want every record that we release while I'm the drummer, like I want it to be my new favorite record.
Yeah.
So yeah, like Love Letter Killshot, I'm very proud of that one. I'm proud of all of them, don't get me
Yeah.
wrong. But yeah, I mean, you know, where we went with that one, it was just like it's kind of where we all were. We were all going through our own separate junk, you know,
Hmm.
and dark stuff in all different ways. And that album just kind of came together like that to where the songs had a more dark overtone and just kind of like, yeah,
Yeah. I
it
get
kind of
that.
sucks to be a human, you know?
Yeah, that's human life. Do you have
Yeah.
like an idea of like how the new stuff is going, I guess, kind of theme you could say, or no?
I would say that it's definitely a little more vertical. And what I mean by that is it's very, very like kind of attack esque, like blatant in your face
Okay.
lyrics. Um, but a lot of what we wrote at the cabin has this like very old school vibe to it, like early 2000s new metal,
Ooh.
kind of like the POD, Limp Bizkit.
Lincoln Park?
Um, do what now?
Lincoln Park, I guess, in a
Yeah,
sense. Yeah.
that's a great analogy.
Okay.
Yeah, we've kind of been revisiting some of the old school sound, and you know, like Disciple used to have the very kind of like rap rock type stuff.
Yeah.
And there's a song that Kevin's got a little bit of a rapping type thing going with an amazing chorus. And so obviously all the songs we write will not make the record. So, you know, who knows if that song will make the final product, but right now everybody's kind of like in this new metal. Me and Kevin mostly are very into like the new metal vein. We love that
Mm,
stuff.
yeah.
And I've been telling Kevin ever since I joined the band, I'm like, man, I just want to make an album that's like early 2000s, just eh, not technical,
Hmm.
keep the drums simple and just this amazing like groove and these big riffs and everything, and just make it a song where the crowd like, let's
Bumps
record
into
it
it.
to like record it with in mind, like what is this going to sound like live, and is it going to make the crowd bounce, you know, like that's the kind of stuff that I like to
You want to see some mosh pits, really?
mosh pits. But like I just want people to groove,
Oh
you
yeah.
know, like, and you know, not saying that we haven't written groovy stuff, but it's there's a different vibe that new metal sound has than all the other stuff.
I
So
get that. I love that. Can't wait to hear it, honestly.
yeah, man. Hey, me too. I'm ready to I'm ready to like, kind of figure out, because we start out with a bunch of songs, and then it's funny how it happens. Like it's not, there's no formula or process that we take in order to get down to the songs that are making the record. But it's funny, like they'll just the best songs just kind of rise to the top and funnel their way out the bottom, and then it's like there's our 12,
Yeah.
and then we may have 3 sitting over here to the side. It's like, oh, we could do a deluxe edition, kind of like we did with Love Letter Killshot.
Mm.
Those 3 songs were just sitting there, and it's like, we'll record these at a later date, put it out as kind of a little amendum or whatever to the album. And yeah.
Nice. Um, Promote any small artists that you typically listen to, I guess, in your area, Joey.
Small artists that I listen to.
Yeah, small artists that you listen to.
um well, I guess I don't know like the definition of small artist, because I never would want to like tell a band they're a
Yeah.
small artist. But there's a band that's on Rockfest Records called Relent.
Relent.
That's
Oh, Relent.
kind of up and coming.
Mm-hmm.
I love that band.
Great band.
I think that they have like the coolest sound, and their vibe is very much like they just keep getting better with every record that they release. And I'm like, man, if they keep at this, like I think this could be something special, because they
Interesting.
have that new metal vibe
Yeah.
that I love. And I think that's why I like them so much. And they're great dudes too. We've gotten to play like a show or two with them, and they're really great dudes. And deserve any success that comes their way. So I'd say Relent, I guess, is probably like the up and coming band that I listen
Mm-hmm.
to.
Okay.
I can't really think of any others that I'm like that like stick out.
Mm-hmm.
Here locally, if I go to a restaurant or something, there'll be like small little local bands, just
Yeah.
kind of like little jam bands that I listen or that I'll listen to while I'm at the restaurant. But
Mm-hmm.
I don't really have any that I'm like a fan of.
Okay. Well, what about like small venues, I guess, in like your hometown? Do you like when you're not touring, right? I guess like when do you have any like that you do remember?
Our the music scene in the upstate of South Carolina sucks.
Really?
It's horrible. Yeah, we don't really have any venues. There was a really cool venue, that venue that POD played
Yeah,
a couple of years ago in Greenville. It was a super cool venue. It shut down. I
because
don't
of
know
COVID.
why, because this area of our state is super cool. I mean, Greenville is an amazing city. It has all the potential in the world to have this amazing music scene, and I just don't know why it can't survive. Honestly,
Hmm.
I really don't. So yeah, if there's any shows that we go to, it's always traveling to venues,
Okay.
either in Asheville, North Carolina. There's the Orange Pill up there. The Charlotte has the Fillmore. And so like Asheville and Charlotte are both an hour from me, so they're not super far. But yeah, if I'm going to a show, it's normally either going to be in Asheville or Charlotte.
Okay.
And occasionally Columbia, South Carolina will have a good show, but very rarely do I go down there. And even like the great venues down in Columbia have closed
Right.
down. So it's um
It's a sucky era right now because of COVID, right? Because of all the
yeah, well, I
venues.
mean, these venues closed even before COVID,
Yeah.
which it scares me how many venues are possibly not going to make it
Yeah.
because of all this junk. So
Yeah. It sucked. Like one of my favorite venues here in the city almost closed, and then all of us in like the small music scene helped shape it and donated to help actually help it survive and everything. So it sucks
yeah,
that like down there's not like much of a music. Like I love local. Honestly, I love local bands and everything. I go as much as possible that I could go to with a local scene, but it kind of
that's cool.
sucks that the local bass scene's like not that much active down there even. And it's very close to like my area too, right? It's just a couple more states down, but yeah,
Yeah.
that's weird.
Yeah, it's weird. There's just different pockets of the country where music scenes they just don't thrive. And then there's other pockets where it's like, we go play in Ohio and Indiana
Yeah.
and Pennsylvania, people come out of the woodwork. And it's like those are states that I wouldn't expect there to be this like crazy music scene, but there is, you know? And where I live, I'm like, man, there is so much potential for like this amazing music scene. And it just,
Doesn't make
they've
sense.
tried and it doesn't survive. So,
Huh. Interesting. Well,
sweet.
Joey, shout yourself out. What do you want the people to know about you?
Um, I feel like this podcast you probably just kind of learned everything that you need to know about me. I'm play drums and I'm a cat dad, and I'm just a normal human being that's been given an opportunity to do do what I love and play some pretty cool music. And I'm not in this for money or fame. I just like making a difference. And um, yeah, man. I mean, it's just cool. I'm just honored to be along for the ride,
I love that. Well,
So
thank you so much, Joey. And that's
absolutely,
it.
man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
It was a great conversation.